Hello, it is MommaFoxFire here, welcoming you to another episode of Even Tacos Fall Apart, the podcast where we tackle tough topics, share stories, and create a safe space for conversations that matter. Today's episode is a unique blend of the digital and the emotional, the modern and the timeless. We are diving into the intriguing world of NFTs, those digital collectibles that have taken the art and crypto world by storm. But we're not stopping there. We are exploring a side of NFTs that often goes fairly unnoticed and definitely not talked about very much: their impact on mental health. You might be wondering, how do digital tokens relate to mental wellness? Well, you're about to find out, because our guest for today, Lester Sidney, is here to share his insights, experiences, and expertise on the subject. Even Tacos Fall Apart has always been about breaking stigmas, and in today's episode, we are breaking through the misconceptions, judgments, and misunderstandings that surround this topic. We're going to dive deep into the waters of NFTs, their role in the world today, and how they intersect with the realm of mental health. So whether you're an NFT enthusiast, a casual collector, or someone who's never even heard of these digital tokens, stick around. Our conversation with Lester is full of surprises, wisdom, and a little bit of magic. You don't want to miss this. Let's get started. Sometimes hitting all the right buttons and everything in the right order, but hey guys, welcome back to another Mental Health Monday. Appreciate you being here with us. We have a great topic lined out, and I'm expecting to actually learn quite a bit tonight, as if I don't always learn from these. But our topic tonight is NFTs and mental health, and our guest is Lester Sidney of Munchie Mafia. I'm really excited for this conversation. We've got some great questions lined up, and if you have any questions while we're going, I'm going to go ahead and open up this question queue. And just type in !Q, enter your question, and hit enter. It'll put it into a queue, and we'll get to it while we're live here. And we're going to go from there. So I'm just going to make sure that my alert box is off and everything. Looks like it is. So we should be good. But all right. So Lester Sidney is a driven, entrepreneurial, positive-minded person who loves to help people grow. The first 15 years of his career, he worked as an enterprise sales rep in software. He enjoyed consulting with his customers to ensure all of their needs were met with the technology he was offering them. And y'all know I am tech challenged, so that sounds like a challenge for me. So kudos for getting along in that career for sure. Most recently, he was the CEO of a vertically integrated medical marijuana company located in Maine. Lester decided to step down as the CEO 4 weeks ago. The decision wasn't an easy one, but needed to happen for his wife and 7-year-old, as he was living in Maine 4 days out of the week and saw the strain he was putting on his family. So good decision there to kind of, get that family in order for sure. In July of 2021, his high school friend and life coach decided to launch the Munchie Mafia NFT program. Oh man, I'm going to start that whole sentence over here. Decided to launch the Munchie Mafia NFT project. The two of them have been blessed with so many amazing mentors in their lives and wanted to pay it forward. So together, they decided the best platform to accomplish that was through Web3 and NFTs. The Munchie Mafia is an NFT collection of 12 characters that represent endangered species, which is so cool. They aim to help better the animal kingdom by raising awareness and donating to well-renowned nonprofits, International Rhino Foundation, and Rainforest Trust. At the same time, they help better their holders by focusing on the 8 dimensions of wellness. They help their holders grow personally, professionally, and financially. So a lot of really cool information there in that bio. I'm excited to dig in. But before we do that, here are some socials that you guys can check out. Website, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. If you're looking for more information on our guest tonight, please feel free to click those, give them a follow, all that good stuff. Let's just jump right into this. That was a lot of information on what you kind of do for work and what we're going to talk about, but what do you enjoy doing when you're not working or creating?
I would say I love, so actually this is a good segue to kind of share, I have a morning routine. And so I enjoy meditating each and every day. I think it's so important for us to take some time for ourselves, right? We're talking about mental health, and what better way than meditating, taking those deep breaths in and out, kind of not focusing on all the different things that are going on, right? I mean, a lot of us will wake up, first thing we do is we hop on our phones, right? Those are things that lead to a lot of challenges. So for the first thing for me is I meditate. So I enjoy meditating. From there, I work out. I work out every single day. There's literally some weeks will be one day a week I'll just won't work out except for stretching, because I think stretching is important. But I would say those are two big things I enjoy doing outside of what I do from a career perspective. And the third thing is I am a bookworm. Like, I love reading. I also, because I was traveling a lot up to Maine, I live in Massachusetts right now. But when I was traveling up for my old position and running that medical marijuana company, I did a lot of audibles as well. So either while I'm working out, I'm listening to Audible, or I'll read for at least 15, 20 minutes every single day after my workout. But those are three things I love to do. And then last but not least, every Thursday, I play hockey. I am a hockey fanatic. I grew up playing hockey since kindergarten. So my old CEO and CFO of a company I used to work for selling software, they have a little league, and we get together every Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. So I'd say those are the biggest things that I like to do outside of obviously enjoying my family. And I've been blessed over the last 4 weeks to spend a lot of time while I'm in transitioning of my career out by our pool. So just really relaxing and getting all that vitamin D, because in Massachusetts in a couple of weeks, unfortunately, the snow will be here. I'm not really excited about it.
Already?
But hopefully. Nah, you'll get surprised. Sometimes end of October, you'll get some snow. So you never know with Mother Nature these days. That's for sure. I mean, we had snow on last April.
It's still 100 degrees here. I mean, it'll still be 100 degrees in October here. So snow is a foreign concept pretty much to me, but when we do get it, it's catastrophic. And we definitely don't get it that early. So
we get it early sometimes, and we get it late in the season. So
yeah. So what's the last book that you read?
So actually, I am in the middle of a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Oh,
yes, and it talks about the importance of, it's not always about money, right? I feel like a lot of us are so caught up in wanting to have money. And don't get me wrong, people who are listening, money allows you to do a lot of different things, but you'll find that it doesn't lead to happiness. And so the book, I forget the gentleman's first name, but the last name is Sharma. I'm having a brain fart, obviously, while I'm on this, stream with you right now. But he talks about how he was an attorney and he made all this money, right? And he realized he wasn't happy. And what woke him up was when he had a heart attack because he wasn't taking care of himself in a courtroom. And then he went and traveled India and went under a bunch of monks, and they showed him that there's more to life than just having riches and having the Armani suits and driving the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and all that other stuff. And so that's the book that I'm in the middle of right now. Prior to that is a book called Think and Grow Rich. I've probably read that book now going on 12 times. And that is a very integral part of a program that I offer to our holders through the 100 Club, which is a nonprofit that I found to really help people rewire their brains and at the same time find these different principles to help them reach financial freedom for those who are seeking it. But that's the book that I just finished up reading again because I'm going through it with the course of a number of our holders today.
Yeah. So you read mostly nonfiction. Do you ever read fiction?
I don't really like I don't like fictional books. I'll be honest. The only fictional books I will read and I have read are the Harry Potters. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it. I for me, it's just like I need something tangible that I can read, and I understand. My wife loves, the I won't tell everybody what she reads, but they're crazy fantasies, and it's just not.
Is it smut? I read smut. I'm not gonna lie.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't read that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just for me. I like non-fictional books.
Yeah.
I want something that I can grab onto and I can leverage in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like knowledge is the key to everything. And again, nothing against fictional books. I think they're great. It leads the mind to imagine different things and have an imagination. It's just not a type of book that I'll read. But Harry Potter's, I'll read those all day. I have the whole collection.
Yeah, they're great books.
Go figure, right? For a guy who doesn't like
Well, it's funny, like those books. So they were when I was a kid, they were still coming out. And so, my baby sister didn't really like to read. Well, no, that's not true. My middle sister didn't like to read very much. My baby sister was learning to read. And so my mom kind of tasked them with, okay, you read a chapter and then you read a chapter. And so they would read them to each other. And that was something that really got them both like learning to read and enjoying reading. So if you can find the books that you like, then absolutely, it doesn't matter what they are, absolutely read them. I try to read a mix of fiction and nonfiction. I lean way heavier towards the fiction side. Like, I like the stories, but also like my job, I do a lot of creative writing. And so that really does fuel what I do and in my day job. So, but I just posted, so I just posted the links to both of those, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari and Think and Grow Rich. I just posted the Goodreads links. You buy them where you want to buy them. If you're interested, they're in the chat. There it is. And I added them to my list also.
Well, don't be upset. Don't come and let me know you didn't enjoy both the books. At least just lie to me and say you enjoyed them both.
100%. I'm going to tell you they're the best thing. Absolutely. So I just got I'm using a friend's account. He has access to some things as far as like TV show libraries, movie libraries and stuff. And so we're sharing kind of a Plex account. And I asked him if he had access to Pitch Perfect because I had never seen it. And someone again told me, oh, you got to see this movie. So I said, hey, do you have access to Pitch Perfect? He's like, no, but I'll get it. And you can have it by this afternoon. So I watched it. And then I messaged him. I said, I need to know if you paid for this. Because if you paid for this, I'm going to tell you it was the best movie I've ever seen.
Sounds like someone didn't like the movie.
It's awful. It's bad. It's not great.
Oh.
I mean, for what it is, it's fine. Like, if you just need something kind of mindless to watch, it's fine. But it was not my bag. It's fine.
Gotcha. Well, I haven't watched it, so now you just made it very easy for me not to decide not to.
I would not. I do not recommend. It's like the worst part of a high school drama. Barely elevated maybe into college, but still not very well executed with people who look like they're 30.
Well, it looks like they did a good job on not only on the casting, but the layout of what they were trying to accomplish with it, huh?
Yeah. There's like Pitch Perfect 2 and 3 and 4, so they did something right. A lot of people like it. It's just not me. But if I read those books, I will tell you that I love them. Absolutely. 100%.
I think you will.
Do you have a serial killer or a true crime story that fascinates you?
Ooh. I would have to say, and this is going to sound so cliche just because we're called the Munchie Mafia, but like, you know what really intrigues me is what happened with Jimmy Hoffa. Like, where is he?
Yeah.
Where is this guy, right? Nobody knows. So I am fascinated about that. And I probably have a few others too. I'd have to rack my brain to think through them, but that's one that I think a lot of people are curious about. Big time.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know if that answers your question or not. I know you asked serial killers.
I mean, it's serial killer, true crime story. Like, it's kind of all the same vein, right? And this is an audience favorite question. Like, everybody, I ask it of everyone. It came up the first time. My very first guest, we talked about serial killers for probably 10 minutes. And then my next guest, and that wasn't even a question then, it just happened to come up. My next guest, somehow it came up again with her, and we talked about it for like 10 minutes. And so now it's like, all right, so now we have to see how many people do have this true crime fascination. And it's been 99% of people. It's crazy. And it's just
I guess I was just going to say I'm like the 1%, right? So I said Jimmy Hoffa, but if my wife came down here, she'll list like 100. I don't know about anyone else in the audience, but every time I go to bed, she's laying in there watching some type of true crimes or murder mystery, I mean, she's obsessed with it. But, for me, I'll watch it, but then it kind of gets old for me. I'm like, I want to see something positive. I don't want to know about death all the time. Like, it's inevitable for it to happen, but I can only watch so much of it. So I might fall in your 1%, but I am fascinated about Jimmy Hoffa just because of the disappearance, what was going on at the time, and then nobody knows where he's at.
Yeah, that's something that, and you look at the background of what all happened leading up to that, and it's like any of these single events could have been the cause. And but each of those things has its own, like, okay, well, if it's because of this, then he could possibly be here. If it's because of this, then he could possibly be here instead. Like, it's a lot of mystery around that.
It is, and then also who did it, right? Because there was other things where it could have been, I'm not going to say it, but some people can read between the lines. It could have been, something with the government, possibly. Who knows, right? There's a lot of different pieces.
Yep,
to the puzzle.
absolutely.
It still hasn't been solved yet.
Yeah, no, it may never be.
Probably won't.
If it is, we'll have you back on to talk about it. So let's get into the topic tonight, which is NFTs and how that kind of interties with mental health. But I want to start with the basics because, as everyone in my chat knows, this is not a tech space. I am not tech savvy. Like, I am tech challenged. I am basically a tech black hole. So because of that, can you just tell us in general, what are NFTs?
So I'm going to use an analogy, and it's something that I used actually on a recent podcast. And I came up with it literally on the fly, and it made perfect sense, right? So NFTs, it's a non-fungible token. But the way that I like to look at it, to just relate to people that aren't familiar with NFTs and some of the things that are going on with them with the blockchain, was think about your VIN number in your car, right? Every VIN number in a car is very unique and specific to that vehicle. Now, you might have 100 red Honda minivans, but all their VIN numbers are different. And also within them, they all have different features, right? And so if you look at an NFT has a unique identifier with each one of them, right? And those are locked into the blockchain. So if you were to have a very specific NFT project, it has metadata associated with it that no other NFT within that collection has that same metadata. So the easiest way that I would relate it to for people who aren't familiar with it is view it as a VIN number. Now, that being said, there's a lot of different utilities that can come along with NFTs. For ours, in case, we're doing great things with donating a certain percentage of our sales. We're growing our community by bringing subject matter experts to work on the 8 dimensions. So there's a lot of different things that come along with NFTs outside of it just being a JPEG or artwork.
Yeah. Are most NFTs artwork? Is that the predominant use for them?
For right now it is, but the big one up and coming, and what excites me is seeing all these musicians take advantage of it. If you look at artists, that are going and trying to get record deals, those record companies are taking the lion's share of all of their artistic ability and putting that money into their pocket. Now, their argument would be, well, we're getting you access because we have all these professionals that have all this marketing ability, we have the market, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, they're left with a smaller bag than those. And so what a lot of these artists are doing is creating their own music NFTs, and they're going direct to the consumer without a Sony or one of these other big record labels. And that's exciting for artists, right? Think about that. Before you're getting 20%, they're making 80. And now you flip that, you're getting 80. And then that other 20%, you're actually giving back to the people that actually bought your music NFT or album. There's been some amazing artists that are already pretty popular that are doing this, and it's becoming really successful. So that excites me for the artists, because I think a lot of times artists are taken advantage of. They don't have the business sense or know-how. Not to say not all artists are that way, but there's a large majority of them, right? And this is an opportunity for them to not be taken advantage of, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's exciting. I think that's something that the music industry in general, like it needs to be less about the producers and more about the people who are actually producing.
Yep. Well, it's going to shake it up, just like the when we started going digital with the MP3 players. Remember Napster? How everyone was like freaking out. And now it's okay, right? You download the music, and now obviously they're getting the fees. But this is just another one of those what I call technology that's shaking up the industry. Right? It's a disruptor at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's really cool. What is the Munchie Mafia? Why did you start that, and what are your goals with that?
So as you said in my bio, and I want to put that in there because I think it's important for people to understand where I'm coming from. Myself and my business partner that's involved in this project, we've just been blessed by so many mentors that have educated us, showed us the way, have been there for us to bounce ideas off of, to get feedback, share things with us of mistakes that they had made in their life to prevent us from making the same ones. And, I'm big on goal setting. So every year I have a board, like I can literally look at my board right now. I see my 2022 goals that focus on various different areas of my life, whether it's around financial, whether it's around family, whether it's around fitness and health, spiritual, educational, right? So I have those goals every year. And then I have a big list of other ones that I want to accomplish. And for the longest time, I had on there to become a billionaire. And I'm telling you guys this story simply because I looked at it and I said, that just seems selfish, right? And what do you like to do to help? And don't get me wrong, there's times in your life where you have to be selfish at the end of the day. And I looked at it, I was like, man, that is just, what more could I do, right? And I said, you know what, I already love mentoring, investing, and coaching people. And he likes to do the same thing. I was like, well, let's build an NFT project where we do help the environment, but we also help our holders in these very specific areas of the 8 dimensions of wellness. And so that's what got it started. Again, we want to just pay it forward and help folks out. And, we've already seen tremendous things happen within our community of helping people get through some dark times. And we've only been live since we launched our project in April of this year. But leading up to that is when we were building the community. It all started in July when we started building the team and stuff. But just to see the impact we've had, if you join our Discord, you'll see it. You'll see the positive energy. You'll see the vibes. You look at us on Twitter, and it's just, that makes me feel like ecstatic, right? To have even if I'm just able to help one person that was able to make a certain decision in their life to go in another direction that helped them onto another path, to help them succeed, like, then I've done everything that I possibly wanted to do with this project, to be honest with you. But I foresee us impacting more and more people's lives. So that's kind of the core of our community, and what we're building is really just giving back and helping people grow personally, professionally, financially. And some will take advantage of all. Some may only be looking for very specific pieces, right? So it's really up to you on what you want to take advantage of from what we've learned in our past and what we're going to continue to offer to our community.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. And I feel like it reflects a lot of what I do. Like, I'm all about community. Everything that I do is like, can I help one person today? That's what my goal is. So hearing you say, like, you're just here, you really want to help people, and this is kind of how you're doing that. I think that that's really a cool thing. I think that's really neat.
I appreciate it. And for us, it's just educating, right? Knowledge is so important. And there's people out there, unfortunately, are holding back knowledge because they don't want to help other people. And we look at it as a completely different perspective. Like, we want to educate people. Like, we host a space on Twitter every Tuesday called Terrific Teaching Tuesday. And we cover different aspects, whether it's in Web3, whether it's about how do I set my goals. We talked about how to determine what your destiny is. Like, we talk about some really deep things. And then we also just talk about other things that are just going to help people along the way. We talk about different books. So we're all just about educating, right? The more that we can provide value to our community. And I tell people, whether you hold one of our NFTs or not, join one of our spaces, join our Discord, because you're going to get the same value. Now, there are some things that we hold specifically for our holders, right? But there's a lot of knowledge that we're sharing in those Terrific Teaching Tuesdays, and that's open to anybody. So, for me, it's just education, right? And then once you get that knowledge, how do you use that knowledge? Because knowledge is one thing, but the second part is actually leveraging and executing in your life. Because I can know everything, but if I never use it, how am I going to progress, right?
Yeah.
And so we try to show them the ways to do that.
That's really neat. So when you say holders, that's someone who has purchased an NFT from Munchie Mafia, right?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah, that's really neat. And so it's kind of like a founder program where you get additional benefits on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. So with NFTs, you have what they call utility, right? And that utility, let me use another analogy for people. Like, you get AAA, right? And you break down, they'll fix your battery, right? You pay these monthly fees, for example, right? And they do all these different things. They'll bring you gas. So you get so many miles for them to tow your vehicle. Look at utility for NFT. If you buy that NFT and you hold it in your wallet, there's certain utility that you get access to. So one of them is the 100 Club that I already mentioned, where I'm mentoring some of the holders through a program that I developed. leveraging that book, Think and Grow Rich, and I break down each one of those chapters and those principles. We have discounts with a number of different online websites, a watch company, a CBD company for those who like that. And then there's just a slew of other ones. I mean, I could keep going on all night about utilities that we offer, but you get added benefits by being a holder.
That's neat. Do most people who have these NFT programs, is that something that they offer as well? Or
Yes.
do they just sell like one-off NFTs?
So now you have artists that do one of ones, right? And those are artists that are just, like as if I was to just sell you my one of one painting if I was an artist. So there's a lot of those. And then you have other projects that are doing like play to earn games, right? I'm sure people within Twitch are familiar with the play to earn games where they're selling you these NFTs and you're using those NFT characters in the game and also earning payments, right? In the form of, some of them are actually earning crypto. But yeah, there's all different types of utilities. It all depends on the project that you're buying into and what they're going to offer you as a utility.
That's really neat. I just, this whole thing is so cool. Like it's so new, and I know there's risk of like, oh, the new thing's not going to stick, but at the same time, it's just neat. It's just really cool.
Well, you bring up a good point. And what I will say is, yes, there's truth, and some people will think, hey, it's not going to stick. What I will say that is the technology specifically behind Ethereum, right? And that's the coin that our NFT is on. The technology is not going anywhere, and it has utility in its own right of what people are able to do with Ethereum. And there are coins out there that don't have any utility. Now, those ones won't make it. We've already seen a lot of them crash and burn. But there's a lot of underlying technology and software behind Ethereum and some of these other coins that are going to continue on in one way, shape, or form, whether it's through NFT sales or not. So that's what I'm really excited about, because as you already saw, I'm a tech guy, right? Sold software for 15 years. And by the way, I'm going back into software sales, specifically cybersecurity. And I was selling application software. I was selling application security software prior to that for those 15 years. So I love security, and that's another thing that we're doing. On tomorrow, we're holding a whole space on security around securing your NFTs and how to get set up with wallets and how to protect yourself. Because there's a lot of bad actors, just like in any industry. There's always bad actors, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So sorry for rambling there.
No, look, you ramble
give you a little extra.
You ramble all you want to. I mean, there was a point in time where people didn't think that Twitch was going to last, back when it was just in TV. They didn't think that was going to be a thing forever. And now it's here. It's been around for many, many years. And there was also a time where people didn't think that just chatting was an okay category on Twitch, and that no one would ever get anything done in a just chatting category on a gaming streaming platform. And here we are streaming a chat. Like, that's what we're doing right now. I do this every Monday. So it's just because it's a new thing and it's a cool thing doesn't mean that it won't last, but there is always that risk, and I know that's a lot of the chatter around that, is that some people thinking it's not going to last. That doesn't mean that it's not going to, though. For sure. Yeah,
well, we'll see. I mean, think about how many people doubted .com. Who's going to go online to buy shoes? Who's going to go online to buy books? I mean, last time I checked, I haven't been into them. Was that you? I can tell you right now, last time I've been in the mall was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. Like, I do all my shopping online.
Yes. Yep.
There's no need to go into the mall. And plus, I get so many more options. I don't have to drive to this mall and go to that mall to go to the things that I like. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm pretty confident that it will hold strong. And there's always those doubters when you're looking at the innovator stage, right? Let's look at the iPhone, for example. Like, I was one of the last people in my friends to get an iPhone, because I was just like, I got my little flip phone. It does what I need to do. And then when everyone was texting me and I was getting charged every time I text, I'm like, I guess I got to get the iPhone. I was almost forced into it. So I was like a laggard, right? So if you look at products, you have the innovator stage, the early adopters, then you start getting the early majority, right? The late majority, and then it goes down the curve to laggards, right? But right now we're in the innovator stage, and there's a lot of exciting things that are happening in the NFT space that excites me.
That's really cool. So how do NFTs and mental wellness intertwine, and how have they interwoven with your own kind of NFT journey here?
A lot. The first thing I'm going to say is burnout, right? I'm on Spaces all day long, right? Speaking with holders, networking with other communities and other projects and having those conversations. And so exhaustion definitely sets in. The other thing is the impact on my, like, you saw that I stepped down from my CEO job, right? Because I was away from the family. Now it's almost been kind of switched a little bit. Yeah, I'm home, but right now I'm doing this, this Twitch with you, and the family's upstairs. And she's like, well, you were just on a Twitter space. Now you're on this. So there's also the mental health of the perspective of not giving my family some of the time that they need. But I am being cognizant of that and making the necessary adjustments into my schedule to make sure that I have that time for them. So that's two big ways, right? I think the other part, and this can kind of come from, and I can talk to it specifically, some of the mental health around fear of not having something, right? You see all these other people minting and buying, and you get into this, well, I got to have one of those too. So I'm seeing that having an impact, because I even sat on, I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. I got to get one. And then I'm like, oh man, you don't have the money for that right now. Like, what are you doing? Right. And I had to have that conversation with myself.
Yep.
But I feel like there's a lot of different things that are happening in this space that impact people's mental health. And that's just a few. So I don't know if you had some other questions around that, but I can dive into some other kind of scenarios and situations. I think, we're seeing it intertwined.
Yeah. I mean, the burnout and the FOMO and the work-life balance, like all of those are serious considerations. And something that doesn't get a lot of attention, I think, is just that FOMO really can cost you a lot. If you're stressed about it, or if you give into it, there's a big cost that can come with that. Both like absolutely. In your wallet and mentally, mental taxation too. So that's definitely something that is a little bit of a concern.
No, and it should be. And one thing that I want to say to everybody is that, with any investment that you're making, whether it's an NFT or whether it's, a stock or what have you, starting your own business, right? Only use the money you're comfortable losing and going to zero.
Yes.
And I'm being real serious, because I've seen some people tell me that they took out an equity line to go buy some NFTs. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? Now, again, I'm not here to tell people how to spend their money or what to do with their money. The only advice I'm going to give you is that I've seen a lot of horror stories, not even specifically on NFTs, just with people that have done certain things where they've used money to make investments in hope of getting that exponential growth, and it goes down to nothing or below what they invested. And it was money they couldn't afford to lose. So never put yourself in that position. And so that also ties into the mental health piece, right? Because there's some people doing that, and then they're seeing their NFT value drop. And then it's like, well, now, like, I am screwed. Like, what do I do? And so I always tell people, and I've been in rug pulls before, right? Where I bought NFTs, the founders run away with millions of dollars, and now I'm left with this NFT that's worth nothing because there's no more value. They didn't meet the roadmap items, right? And I bugged out at first, and then I had to come to the realization, okay, now I need to be better at identifying which projects I potentially see are actually going to go somewhere, and which red flags I should be aware of and look out for before I invest. But so, again, don't invest money into any type of investment unless you're prepared for it to go to zero.
Yeah. And it's like going into a casino, right? You take in a set amount of money. You should take in a set amount of money. I'm not saying everyone does, but you should take in. You're burning money. Like, you got money for a casino. That's the money you have, and you don't give any more than that. It's money you're willing to lose. And it's one of those things that if you're willing to go to zero in your bank account, great. If you're willing to go even further than zero in your bank account and get an equity line of credit or something, great, but really consider what you're doing. And that can be a big trap for a lot of people. Especially,
it can be.
Yeah, especially if there's something where there's a potential for a scam or something like that. It's tough.
And think about being in that position, right? Where you were hoping that was going to occur, it was going to grow exponentially. Now you have no money. Now you're getting people calling you saying, hey, you owe your water bill and this and that. I mean, think about the mental stress that has on you as a person, right? It's a lot to take in. Then you have children. Let's add that in, right? Or you have, your mother or something like that that's living with you that needs your support and help for one reason or another, right? I mean, it's just, it can snowball quick. and
Yep.
have a tremendous impact on you mentally. That's for sure.
Yeah, it really can. And I've been, not because of an investment or anything, but I've been in that situation back in the 2008 crisis that was happening with housing, but it also highly affected construction, which is the market that I was in at the time.
Yep.
And I was laid off and single mother living with just my kid. And it was like, it was scary. It was really scary to kind of have to choose. And thank God for my family, because one time my mom showed up with literally a trunk full of groceries. And I was like, oh, thank God. Now I don't have to pick between a water bill and going to the
Yeah.
grocery store, and that's a stress that you just, sometimes it's tough. It's tough to live with. It's tough to live through. I don't wish that on anyone. And if you can avoid it, if you can avoid it through your own personal choices, then great. If it happens to you, external circumstances, that's different. But if you can avoid it through a personal choice, then that's probably the best way to go.
I would agree with you for sure.
Do you feel there's a mental health crisis or a potential for one? And crisis, not just like these have, these things are happening, but do you think it's going to come to a head in the NFT community at any point?
I think it's already starting to happen. If you brought on other project founders and we would literally talk about a number of things I've already mentioned. The first one is burnout.
Yeah.
And I have some other project founders that we meet on a regular basis. And sometimes I'm like, guys, like, you got to take some time off. So one of the things that I've done recently is I say Saturdays, Sundays, I tell my core team, I go, you won't see me on Twitter. I might put one tweet out right in the morning saying, for me, I like positive words to start every single day. So maybe on Saturday, I say, have a stupendous, Saturday. And I might tweet that out with a little, something like, make sure you find some time to recharge your batteries. But that's it. You won't catch me on Spaces. You will not see me there. Same with Discord. I'll pop in. I'll say something. Some Saturdays and Sundays, I tell my community manager, I'm like, it's your turn. Like, you know what I mean? But I think it's so important to have that rest. Some of these guys will host 48-hour spaces. Like, how can you be on a space for 48 hours straight? Like, I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but your body needs that nourishment. It needs that rest. And so if you talk to a lot of other project founders, and I've been there, it's taxing, right? And it starts to have a mental impact on you, where you don't get the rest, then you're snapping at people, and it doesn't turn out well. So I've been cognizant of it, and I feel like it's challenging sometimes, right? Because there's so much work that goes into these projects that people aren't aware of behind the scenes, and you just got to keep going because the space is changing so rapidly, and you got to make adjustments to your plans and things of that nature. But also, you got to find time to rest. So if you brought on other project founders, you'll see the first thing they'll say is taxing and exhaustion on themselves for doing all these things, and also most founders like myself also have a 9 to 5 job and also have families. So add all of that up together, right? But I would say that you would hear a lot of them say that they're burning themselves out.
Yeah. Do you think that that's something that is going to go down at any point, or is that just kind of the nature of the beast right now?
I think it's the nature of the beast, but it's the same thing. Like, you look at any entrepreneur, right? These are all startups. It's no different than a PayPal or a Google or an Amazon. I mean, you go and interview any one of those gentlemen who started those businesses. I mean, they worked themselves to the bone, right? They worked themselves so much, and then once they got to a certain point, then they could obviously pull back a little bit, right? Because now they're hiring people to do other things. But I think for a lot of us projects that start out, it's going to continue to be that way, right? Because at the end of the day, most people that are going to want to work with you on it, they're going to want payment. And all of the projects, including ourselves, I mean, this whole thing has been bootstrapped, right? We're not taking any outside funding. And I could call my old CEO and CFO, who are VC guys, and take money from them. But at the end of the day, it's not building a true community. It's just throwing a bunch of money at it in hopes that it grows. For us, I'm all about the community members, and the people we attract in are looking to grow in those areas that I mentioned before. So, yeah, I don't foresee it stopping. What I'm hoping is that they'll start to become cognizant of the impact it's having and take a day or two off to kind of relax. Right. Because I think there's things that they can do where they can still work as hard as they are, but at the same time, find that time to recharge their batteries.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I don't see it going anywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's tough, and especially whenever you have a family and everything, and if you see other people who don't have a family who are able to do so much more, they don't have a 9 to 5, they're able to do so much more. I know for me personally, sometimes I look at these other creators who are able to do all of this stuff in their evenings, and I'm like, that's cool, but when do you spend time with your kids? And then I'm like, oh, right. They don't have kids, right? And so for me, like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I have a reckoning with myself to say, hey, you do have kids. You have to kind of put that in your own head and say, I'm at this level, they're on their own level, and they're just two different things. It's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong. You just have to do it differently to make it work for you. So I hope that everyone is able to find that balance for sure for themselves, and that looks different for everybody.
It absolutely does, and it's not easy. Right? I think the first step is realizing that you're burning yourself out, and then the second part is coming up with a plan and the strategy and tactics to deploy to prevent yourself from getting back to that point. So it takes a lot of work, and it's a new muscle for many people. Some people know only go go go. And I was that person, and there are times I'm just go, go, go. And then I'm lucky enough to have a queen, my wife in the household, that says, hey, you're spreading yourself too thin. Hey, us over here, remember us, your family? Because I'll be the first to admit it. I love working. I love building businesses. I love scaling them. And I could just work and work and work. And that's not okay, especially being a husband and a father. Right. And so luckily for me, I have someone that's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, where's our time? Right. And keeps me in check. And I appreciate that. And as much as I want to be like, no, I want to go do that to this, I'm like, yep, I gotta go. I have to do this, right? And it's important to them because they need me just as much as my community needs me or my business needs me. They need me just as much, if not more.
Yeah.
So, but to your point, it's finding that balance, and it's going to be different for everybody.
Right. You mentioned FOMO a little bit. To what extent have you personally experienced FOMO, and do you think that is the main concern when it comes to NFTs and mental health, or do you think it's more on the burnout side, or do you think it's something else?
I would say, so it all depends, right? So if you look at project founders, right, that's a lot of that burnout's there, right? Because these guys are building startup companies. When you look at, FOMO, that's looking at the people buying into projects. Now, what I will say is that there's two different types of projects, okay? Ones that will leverage that and others that won't. And I'm going to define them two different ways. Hype projects, right, that spend a lot of money marketing, hype. Let's hype this up. And then projects like ours that's organically growing. And what I mean by organically growing is we're truly building community. You won't see us hype. Yes, we have spaces talking. We just had a public mint party. Yes, a bunch of them got minted, but we still have 1,600 more to go in our process. And that's not going to happen overnight. Now you see hype projects that spend a lot of money in marketing, paint these big, grandiose pictures of all these things they're going to deliver to you on the roadmap. And they will use FOMO in a way to move their NFTs to get them sold out as fast as possible. And so that's why you really got to look at the projects and decide what do you want to invest in. And what I've seen with some of these hype projects, I've bought into them. They sell out in 24, 48 hours, and then a week goes by, another week goes by, and there's nothing. It's crickets. Community dies off, right? Because there's nothing tangible except for I got caught up in the fact that I really wanted to have this because all these other people wanted to have this artwork, right? And then come to find out there's no utility behind it. You just have this nice artwork. And now there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because there's art collectors in the NFT space. I mean, I have people in our community that don't care about a utility. They just like our artwork, and they've bought them, and they're literally blowing them up on canvases and putting them in their household, in their libraries, or in their living rooms, right? So, and you also have to break it down to the different types of collectors, right? Some do it for the art. Some are doing it for the art plus the community. Then you have some that are doing it for the art plus the community and the utilities that I mentioned, and anywhere in between. So again, I look at it as there's two different types of projects. There's hype ones that don't have a lot of building of the community behind it, right, and the support. And then you have the organic ones that we're taking our time, and we're literally building one person at a time to come in, and we only want people to buy into our project that believe in our mission and what we're up to, right? At the end of the day, because that's what builds a community. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I'm certain there's going to be some people that listen to this that are going to disagree with me, but I think that's what's unique about this world, right? We have our own opinions and our own outlook on things. So that's what I would say. Hopefully that answered your question. What do you think? Did it answer your question? I don't know.
I think so. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
What success stories have you been witness to in the NFT community? We've talked a lot about, kind of the struggles and everything, but what success stories have there been?
So when you say success stories, are you saying within our community or with regards to our project? So if you could be a little bit more specific, then I could guide it in one or both ways.
I think specifically related to mental health, right? Has there been any times where you've seen somebody who was really struggling and then either the NFT community rallied around that person to lift them back up, or where they recognized what they needed through NFTs or anything like that?
No, I'm so glad that I asked you to specify, because I would have went in a whole nother direction.
You can go in both directions.
Well, no, I want to keep it towards what we're talking about, right? Mental health, because this is Mental Health Monday, right? And so what I want to share with people is, we had an individual, I'm not going to say names, that was in our community, and they were in a dark place, super down on themselves, speaking negatively about themselves, right? Nothing can go right. I can't do this. I can't do that. And they had unfortunately lost their job. And that spiraled into a whole lot of other issues. And they were in our Discord, and you saw all of the people in our community get behind that person every morning, sending them positive messages in the general chat, picking them up, saying, don't think this way. All right. There's so much more out there for you. And I always say to my community, we're all going to hit dark times. Even me as a positive person, motivational, I was just in a dark place because I'm going through that transition and just mentally preparing myself to go back. Going from being a boss to going to work for somebody and having to report, like, there's a lot of changes that are happening, right? Having the flexibility, and I'll be 100% frank with people. Like, there was a little depressed state for me for a couple of weeks where I was just kind of working through that in my mind and mentally preparing myself. And now I'm out of that, which is great. And some people don't have those muscles in their body to do so, right? They haven't had to go through some of those things, and so you need a community to support you. And I saw our community support this individual who was going through all those things that I mentioned earlier. And guess what happened? 3 weeks later, they got a job. And they said, because of all the support, all the positivity, even when I was down and talking negatively about myself, all of you in the community have helped me out and got me to the point where I got my confidence back up, started thinking positively about myself, and I got the job that I wanted to get. And that was like so rewarding. And I was in there obviously doing the support, but most of it was coming from the community. And those are the types of people we're attracting into our community. And that's because we have very specific mission that we're on to really help people grow, but also show them their worth and know that even the most positive guy, the founder, gets depressed and he has people he leans on, right? And that's what we want to do here, help you guys have a community that you can lean on that can uplift you in those times, right? We all go through it, right? So I gave you a mix of both, right? A little bit of myself of recent challenges I've been going through from a mental health perspective. And it was just really around the transition of my job with someone in our community that we helped get a job. And I have so many more of those stories. I mean, it makes me excited. I want to like dock some of these people, but I will never do that. But I got text messages. All right. So here's another good thing, actually, and I can share these things because people won't know who the individuals are. But I got text messages last night because we had our big public mint party, and there were people joining that have never been familiar with us. And as a community, we came together and we were able to bring some positivity in this person's life. And she was just like, I'm so happy I came to this space. She's like, I only came here because I saw so and so in here. I had no idea. And I go, energy is everything. So people listening to us right now know that energy is everything. There's a reason why you and I are on here, right? You put out a certain energy. That energy found us through other people, right? And that it happens. And I stress that to my community. I was like, you put positive energy out, you're not going to get nothing but positive people coming into your life, positive things happening to you. You put that negativity out there, that's what you're going to get. But back to the other story, I was getting so many text messages from my community member about like, thank you for building what we're building right now. Because I never realized that I could be someone that could motivate somebody else. And tonight I saw that by being able to see this person in this situation. And because, Lester, I'm participating in your 100 Club program, and I'm a holder and part of the Munchie Mafia, I've now realized, like, wow, I can also help people motivate them. I'm like, see that? Like, you're starting to realize that you can do it. You just never had someone show you that you can unlock that part of you. And we were going back and forth. And I have so many texts like that. I have probably like 5 or 6 from people just saying, thank you for letting me be a part of this community. Like, letting you be a part. I mean, you came in and you're doing amazing things, helping other people. So, man, that just gets me so fired up and excited. Like,
That's awesome.
I know I'm on the right track, and the vision that my other co-founder and I came up with wanting to do this and using NFTs as a platform to help people. It's actually happening, and that's what's so exciting for me right now. So, yeah, I'll stop there. I'll let you ask some more questions. But I just got so excited.
No, that's great. I mean, and it leads great into my next question, because I was going to ask, what have the benefits of it? You know, like I said, we talked about kind of the down stuff, but what have the benefits of NFTs been on your own mental health? And it sounds like part of it is just the joy of getting to see these people getting the help and support that they need. So have there been any other benefits of this project and program on your own mental health?
So meeting so many amazing people. So, I mean, I have friends now in New Zealand, and I've obviously had friends before in Canada, but I have more friends in Canada that I would have never met before, in the UK, in Dubai, right? Web3 and these Twitter space have enabled me to expand my network and meet more people that I would have never met before, ever. Think about that. And, you know, your network is everything at the end of the day. There's so many people that if one of my community members reaches out and says, hey, Lester, I need some help with XYZ, I am either 1 degree or 2 degrees away from someone that can help them.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing that. I mean, I was actually just talking the other day on a space, and the person's like, I go and I'll introduce myself to anyways. Like, I was just at the gas station, introduced myself to this guy, and now he's like, I own a bunch of restaurants, and now I got another contractor in my Rolodex. For those of you that don't know what a Rolodex is, the same thing as your. I use that joke on another space, and one of my team members like, "What is a Rolodex, Lester? We never even heard of that." I don't own one either, guys. It's just essentially an address book. But I do the same thing. Like, I will meet so many different people, even in IRL, as we call it, outside of Web3, but how quick my network has continued to expand with Web3, and so many amazing people that are doing so many great things that you get to connect with on a personal level. Like, I have so many new friends from this that we talk every day on the phone.
Yeah.
Right. I have friends that I've met in Web3 that have driven up from Connecticut to come hang out in Massachusetts at my house, break bread with my wife and my son, and stay the night. And here's a funny little kind of side joke to bring some humor in. He thought he was going to get catfish, so he rolls up to the door, rings the doorbell, and he has his cell phone out looking at a picture of me, because I'm fully doxxed, and I always tweet photos of myself out. I actually just tweeted one out of me and my son on Sunday. We went to on Saturday we went to a amusement park. But he was like, I was just making sure that it was actually you that came to the. He's like, I was getting so nervous and scared, but again, yeah, I would say that is another big thing for me. It's just being able to meet so many amazing people doing so many great things. I get to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I met you through Big Kev, who I snuck onto one of I don't know if you know Megan within his group, but I stuck on one of her spaces that said positive vibes, and she invited me up to speak, and I dropped some positivity. Next thing you know, Big Kev slides into my DMs, and he's like, "Dude, I love your energy." And now I'm talking to Big Kev once a week. We're doing Zoom calls. We're doing text messaging. We're talking on the cell phone, right? And so this is what happens also with Web3. So I look at that as another positive. So even if NFTs go away and my project dies tomorrow, I've already met so many amazing people that I would say it's worth it.
Yeah, it's not going to die tomorrow, though.
Oh no, it's not going. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not going anywhere.
So I think I do legitimately have a Rolodex in one of these boxes back here.
Oh, you do?
I think I do, because I had one at work, and whenever we all had to leave the office in 2020, I packed it, and I'm pretty sure it moved with me. So I'm fairly certain I have an actual Rolodex in one of these.
Oh, I love it.
For all you youngsters out there who don't know what that is, just Google it.
They're all laughing. They're like, what is a Rolodex?
I know. I mean, I haven't used it in a very long time, because literally, like, everything's just in my phone, right?
Everything's in the phone.
Or in my Outlook contacts, which is also in my phone. So it's still in my phone, but... Absolutely. So you said two things that I want to ask about. One of them is minted. What does that mean?
Yeah. So minted is the same thing as to buy.
So that's people purchasing your NFT.
Yeah. So when you're going through, there's two ways to buy an NFT. So when we launch, like for us, we have 12 characters in our collection. The first one was the Podfather. That one sold out. Now we're on Tony Montana the Tiger. And you can mint directly from our website. So think of minting, right? Here's another analogy for people, right? What do they do when they're when you're making a new coin? You have to mint it, right?
Yep.
And every coin will have maybe a certain kind of, or let's say dollar bill has a very unique identifier on it. It's the same thing, right? You're minting that NFT. So that's a one of one. That's the only person that can have that is you. And you actually bought it before it went to secondary market. So when you see stuff on OpenSea, that's the secondary market. In cases like projects like ours that have an actual minting function through our website. Now, if you look at some one-of-one artists, they might just mint it themselves and then they put it on secondary. But minting is the same thing as buying. Okay. And once the collection's sold out, you can't mint anymore. Now you'd have to go to the secondary market to purchase one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
Or as they say in the NFT space, sweep the floor. And you're probably like, what does sweeping the floor have to do anything? But we won't get into those details unless you want me to.
I mean, to me, it sounds like you're kind of gathering up the stuff that's left, or that people have left around or something. You're right.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
The analogies I can do. I can get those. Okay, so donate it to a museum. That's funny. I should. I should find a museum around here and donate that Rolodex. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about that you mentioned is Web3. What is that?
So some people are going to say to me that, like, they're not going to agree with it. But I look at Web3 taking IRL, right, in real life, and putting it with technology, right? Like what we're doing right now. I'd consider, the blockchain, NFTs, right? Bringing both of those together would be kind of my definition. Now, there's probably some people that are going to be like, I don't agree with that, but that's how I look at Web3, is really taking two different types of worlds and bringing them together, both a technology piece and in real life together to create a different space, right?
That's really cool. Okay, that makes sense.
That's how I would define it.
Yeah, like the Internet of Things.
Correct. Now, if you look at the Internet of Things, right? Because Internet of Things is taking technology, right, and putting it in connected devices. I mean, have you seen the new fridges now that will tell you that you're out of milk?
It's insane.
Like, that scares me. I don't want my fridge telling me I'm out of milk, I'm out of bacon, because the more we're connecting things, and guys, I don't want to freak anyone out here on this space, and I sell technology and I'm in cybersecurity, but the more devices that are connected, the more things can happen. And I'll just leave it at that, right? There's more ways that people can get access to certain things. I bug out sometimes. I don't know about you. I saw you have an Android. I have an iPhone. I'll sit here sometimes and Siri will be like, "Oh, what did you just say?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't even press the button to talk to you, Siri. Like, what do you mean?" Mm-hmm. Right? So So that's Internet of Things, right? It's connecting devices with internet capabilities. But yeah, I look at Web3 as literally taking IRL and combining it with what we're doing now with blockchain and NFTs and crypto, and combining those two types of different worlds together.
Yeah. I get judged enough. I don't need my appliances added to that. That's funny. So I'm the opposite. I'm like, connect all the things, because if my refrigerator can tell me that I'm out of milk or I'm out of bacon, then I won't forget to add it to the freaking list. I could be just like, fucking order it for me. Just order it. If I'm out of it, just order it for me. Hey, I'll do it. Whatever. But
that's coming.
I'm sure that coming. It is. Oh, absolutely.
It absolutely is.
But it's also terrifying because you're talking about like Siri not even being prompted. All right. So this is going to get a little personal, but I was over at my mom's house one day. None of us had our phones out, on, nothing. We weren't watching TV. Like, they have an Alexa in there, but we hadn't prompted Alexa or anything. Mm-hmm. We were talking about menopause. Okay. And I am not going through menopause. My mother is. And so when I got home that night, and we were just talking about it, not looking up anything, not just generally like, how are you doing? She was having a hot flash. Okay. So, right. So I get home and I pull up my phone. I'm looking on Pinterest.
Yep. I already know where this is going.
That pops up is, are you going through early menopause? I'm like, no. I hadn't done anything. Like, I hadn't Googled it. Nothing. The last time I Googled early menopause was before I had my hysterectomy, because there was a chance. That was, 5 years ago? At least. And it hasn't come up on Pinterest since then. But then that night it did. So your devices are listening. Whether they're going to do anything with it right now or not, they are listening.
Well, somewhere tucked into all the screens that we just kind of click through and just accept, somewhere tucked in there that there's likely some language in there.
Oh, 100%.
And we already seen what happened with Facebook getting in trouble for some of the things that the data was collecting without making people aware of it. And then you saw what Apple did, with at least with the iOS device, right? If you have the Facebook app, there's very specific things, right, that you can turn off with certain apps that they can't collect that data. And Facebook freaked out because they use a lot of that retargeting for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
I mean, just to your point, I mean, I've done it where I'm talking in front of my phone and the next thing you know, I'm getting ads for something I just was talking about. And I'm like, yeah, they're definitely listening. And
yeah.
It's in the fine print somewhere.
It's gotta be. I'm kind of surprised you don't have the Amazon order buttons all around your house. I didn't know there were Amazon order buttons. Are there buttons I can get? Apparently I'm going to get buttons. I didn't know that was a thing. But I have heard that people who are more in the tech space, like yourself, you said you're in cybersecurity, people who are more familiar with technology and more like they kind of know what goes into it, they are less likely to have that shit themselves. Meanwhile, I'm over here like, give it all to me. I don't.
There's a reason, if you can even do the research, there's a reason why, even if you look at some of the executives, like, that were behind Facebook, that they don't even let their kids use it, right? Yeah. I mean, did you see all that crazy stuff that had come up of all that information that they saw about the mental health and all the issues it was having with children and all the other things?
I have seen some of those.
I'll stop that. Did you see the Netflix one on the social, what's it called? Forget the name of it. You got to look on Netflix, but it talks about it, and it actually, they have a lot of these executives that are like, I won't even let my children touch any of these types of different platforms.
Wow, no, I haven't seen it
because they're aware of it. It's called The Social Experiment.
Okay,
you should look it up on Netflix. I believe it's The Social Experiment. I'm gonna double check for you.
I've seen, like, I know there are some studies on the brains of kids who are on social media versus off social media, and how many hours. Like, I know those studies are out there. I've read some of them, but it's really terrifying for me as a mom. Like, my 15-year-old is on some social media, mostly Discord though, with friends and everything. And I think that that's a little bit different because you don't have the pressures that you get of seeing someone's perfect life. But yeah, it's scary. Parenting today is kind of scary.
So it's actually called The Social Dilemma. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
I wanted to make sure I gave the right one just for any listeners that are interested in watching it, but it is on Netflix. It's called The Social Dilemma.
I'm gonna open up Real Good real quick and add the social dilemma. There it is.
Yep.
Add to watch
And I
list.
just want to make
Added.
sure. Yeah, it's a documentary, and they interview a lot of old executives at some of the biggest companies, and some of them have stepped down and left the companies because of their concerns of not only what these platforms are doing to young children, but also the data that's being collected. So, anyways, I don't want to digress too much on the show, but I thought that would be. I want to make sure I was accurate. I want to make sure I was accurate. That's what I want to do. Make sure I was accurate. I don't want to send someone down a rabbit hole and be like, "What is he talking about? That show doesn't even exist."
We get distracted plenty here. It's all good. But kind of getting us back to the topic, I guess. What has been the worst moment or part of creating Munchie Mafia or NFTs in general, in your opinion? And what has been the best?
What has been the worst? Huh. That's a good question. It's been a learning experience, a big one, because when we got into NFTs back in July of 2021, it was just an idea. And we had no idea how to take it off the ground, what to do. And we reached into our networks, and it's been a learning process. So I would say that, the most difficult thing is not knowing how to do certain things and then learning, and then you're making mistakes as you're learning. But I also say at the same time, it's so important for you to not sit back and try to overanalyze things. It's sometimes better to go and do and fail. And as much as people say, "Oh, failure," is a bad word, maybe use it as learning, right? So even when I've done things with my cannabis company up north before I stepped down, there was things that I had to learn, right? And that were failures, and I learned from those to not make the same mistake. So I would say that the most difficult thing for us was having to learn so many new things about technology and how to deploy a contract. Oh, we need a developer to do this, and then we need this and that, right? And I would say that was probably one of the most difficult things, was that whole process of learning as we go.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second part to your question was around kind of the best things.
Yeah. What's the best thing? What's been the best part of creating
The best
Munchie
part of
Mafia
it,
for you?
the community.
Mm-hmm.
It literally is the community. And I say that because of what I shared with you earlier, right? Of how they're able to come and support people, but then also the growth I'm already seeing in these people's lives. Even the ones that are just participating in the 100 Club. Like I got a Zoom call with them tomorrow where we're breaking down chapter 3 of that book. And just to see the growth that they've experienced in the first two, because what we do is we break down the chapters and we discuss them as we're breaking the chapters down. And then I have them go and deploy those principles and then come back and talk about their experience. I mean, just the growth I've seen. I mean, and their levels of being vulnerable and realizing things that they need to work on or change to apply some of these principles to help them. Has just been fascinating. So for me, it's the community, the people, and the impact that we've already had in such a short period of time. And again, that just excites me. So I'd say that's the best part of it so far.
Yeah, and that tracks. Like everything that you said tonight has been just. I can feel your excitement around the community. That's really cool. It's definitely coming through. Like I can tell you are genuinely excited and you love the community that y'all are building. So that's really neat.
I do. And without them, we don't have a project. But again, as I said earlier, even you read in my bio, right? I love seeing people succeed. I want to help as many people as I possibly can. So, I started out when telling people, and I didn't close the loop on it. You didn't call me out on it, but I have a big goal. Instead of becoming a billionaire, I want to help 100 people become a millionaire in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's even just coaching them, or maybe I coaching them and then I invest in them in some way, shape, or form. Like that's my new goal, and it's not
I
about
like
me
that.
at that point, right? And it took me that happened 2 years ago when I made that adjustment on my board. It used to say billionaire, now it says, well, I literally, my biggest goals that I have under that list, it says make 100 millionaires. And so I'm on that mission. And even if I only come up to 50 guys, guess what? It's still more than 10, still more than 5. And so I'll always push people who are close to me to set goals, right? but make them so you have to work, right? You don't want to make easily attainable goals. There's a good book for some people, and the guy, I'm going to preface it, he's a big real estate guy, but it's called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Really good book. Now, what I'll say to people is use that book in a way that you can apply it in your life. And he talks about real estate and what he's done of 10Xing his goals. But you can say, instead of real estate, it's whatever you want to succeed in life, right? And 10X them. And he used an example. Well, if you want to set a goal of $100,000, well, 10X that number. And even if you fall in between that number, guess what? It's more than what you would have set at the bottom. And it pushes you harder and harder. And a lot of my mentality comes from the fact that I'm a sales professional, right? And I did enterprise sales, and every time I hit my quota, guess what the CFO said? He goes, "Now you got to do this,
Yeah.
and now you got to do this," right? And there were always goals where you could obtain them, but it required you to work just a little bit harder. And I feel like if we just implemented that in our lives, people would start to see more and more growth and more success. And even if you fall up a little bit short, just know that that's more than what you would have done if you set your bar way down here. So I'm sorry for my soapbox there, but I thought that was very important to kind of share with
away,
people.
man. Soapbox away.
You're muted.
Oh, I'm muted.
I can't hear you.
I wanted to mute myself. What the hell?
You muted yourself. Yeah.
I didn't even look, I'm not even clicked into Discord. I have things in front of Discord, so I don't even know how I did that, man. I am.
That's so funny.
I literally don't know how that happened. But anyway, I wonder if I hit something on my mouse. I must have hit something on my mouse. Oh, well. Yeah, I really think that it's okay to have aspirational goals that are related to money. I would never call you out on saying I want to be a billionaire. The thing that I have a problem with is that that's not one of my goals, because I know, for me personally, I will never get to being a billionaire because I would give so much of it away. That's the thing. Billionaires are billionaires because they don't give their shit away. And if you're a billionaire and you're giving stuff away, great. Good for you. Awesome. I personally would never get there because I would be like, oh, Kev's got a new project? Here, have $1 million. That's just how I know myself. That's how I would be. So I have very similar goals. I want to help people. So I'll make a goal of, I want to help people. I want to respond to this many people who are struggling, or just weigh in, check in with this many people for this week. So my goals are more related to people instead of money. Mm-hmm. But if you want to be a billionaire, fucking go for it. If you want to make 100 millionaires, fucking go for it. But I know, just for me personally, I wouldn't be able to do it. Not that I wouldn't love to. Somebody wants to give me $1 billion, I will take $1 billion. just putting that out there, universe. And don't take that to mean I don't want money. I do want money, but just saying. So yeah, no, you're right. I didn't call you out on that. I wouldn't call you out on that.
I was saying to call me out on the part of that I changed it from wanting to be a billionaire to now making 100 millionaires. I never closed the loop on it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
So
I like that goal a lot.
I've changed my thought process, and if I never reach $1 billion, I don't care. If I can make 100 people millionaires, I'm super excited.
Absolutely.
Right, because it's changing lives.
Yes. Right? Yep. And that's what really makes the difference. Absolutely. So Bitemark is here, and she has asked the question, and that question is, what is your favorite poem?
Favorite poem. So, we were talking earlier, and I had to really think about it. It's been a long time since I've read a poem, and I'm going to relate this to, one in which I read in high school. And at the time, I understood what it was saying, but never had lived through it. And I would say my favorite poem is The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost.
Oh, and that is such a good one.
It's such a good one. And, I'm going to relate it to a couple of things. The first one is I had a global VP of sales, and we were on a mission at the company to open up the enterprise market for our company. That's getting in the Fortune 500 accounts. And he would always approach it. There's two different types of ways that you can go the easy route, or you can go the path less traveled, right? Just like in this poem. And that path less traveled requires you to do more work in terms of during that process, right? There's certain things like you can't skip certain steps in the sales process because then things can go sideways, right? For me, for example, just in life, right? Like I was at a crossroads recently and realized that, hey, my family was more important than being the CEO of this company. As much as I've been dreaming to be a CEO for the last 15, 20 years, I finally had the opportunity, but I saw the strain it was having on my household. I was at that crossroad and I was like, all right, well, I could continue down this other path over here, which is nice for me from a career perspective. I'm the boss, the easy path, or I'm going to go back and have to rework my brain and take another path and work harder and be underneath somebody, which is a change, right? So I love that poem. And I'm so glad that was asked because again, I haven't read poems in a long time, and it made me have to rack my brain of some of the ones I remember, and then it forced me to go reread it, and so that one speaks true to me. And I feel like a lot of times in life we go to the easy path, but we need to realize that the path that's less traveled requires that there are going to be challenges and obstacles in our way. But when you overcome those, what happens? You grow as an individual. You grow as a person. You learn things. And then when you get to the end of that road, right, it might have been difficult, but it's even that much more rewarding when you succeed versus going down the easy path and not learning and not having to fight through those challenges that actually add to you and grow you. So that's my favorite poem.
Yeah, that's a great one. It really is. Bite said, I love so much the answers that we get to this question. It started out as a silly thing, but I just love it. Absolutely. We have had all kinds of poems mentioned. I mean, just everything mentioned and brought up and even read on stream to us by guests. It's incredible. Really? the different things that we hear. Yeah, it's really cool.
Has anyone said this poem yet?
Not that I recall. My memory is also shit. So Bite might know better than I, but I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll give Bite a second to weigh in on that.
Let's have them weigh in on that.
Yeah, but I don't remember anyone bringing this one up, and it is such a good poem. Like it's really
a classic too.
It is
you had to read it in high school, right?
Yep.
I feel like every high school student has to read this.
There are a lot of things in high school that I either read and didn't necessarily appreciate at the time, or that I read and thought were stupid at the time, that then I'll go back and read again, and I'm like, damn.
You bring up a really good point. And, have you ever picked up a book and you're reading it? And like for me, obviously, as you know, I'm not reading fictional books, right? But you pick up a book and you're reading it and you're like, man, this just really isn't talking to me at the point. And I feel like, when you're reading certain books, we're all at different points of our life, right? And it's important that, it's nothing against some books. The time might not be right. So, for example, like this poem, when I read that in high school, I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to go down the easy road here and do whatever I want to do. Why do I want to be challenged? Like, who wants to be challenged? Like, what is that, right? But then, as to your point, like as you get older, like you go and reread things, and you're like, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Or now this is the time for me to pick up and read this book, or what have you. So. I just wanted to echo that I too have gone and I've read books and I'm like, all right, halfway through, I'm like, this is just not speaking to me. I put it down, and then a couple of years later, I pick it up and I'm like, oh yeah, now this is a point in my life where I need something like this. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important. It's important to make sure you're picking the right books for the time and place that you are in your life, because they all will speak to you differently.
Yep, absolutely. There's one book that I just read. It's The Body Is Not an Apology. I wish I could remember the author, but it's a wonderful, wonderful book. And if I had read it when I was in my 20s, well, I guess probably in my late teens, when I was a tiny little stick figure, I don't think I would have appreciated it as much now that I am a large and in charge woman. But it really, the things that she talks about in that book, it really, really resonated with me. And I know for a fact that when I was a kid with an eating disorder, none of it would have stuck. Not a single little bit of it would have stuck at all. So to kind of go back and just like think about the last book that you read and think about what you would have thought of it as a kid versus what you thought of it when you read it now. It's a huge difference. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, that is a great poem though.
I appreciate it.
All right, so I'm gonna steer us back again.
Absolutely.
we like to get distracted here. We like to talk about a range of things, and it's fine. Are there any things that you do for self-care that are specifically related to NFTs or your own process?
No, nothing specific to NFTs. I mean, for self-care, every morning, as I said, well, actually, I didn't tell you my full morning routine. I wake up with a positive word. So today is Marvelous Monday.
Yes.
And, this is something I implemented probably like about 4 years ago. And I was just like, oh man, like, cause some days you get up and you're like, another day. I'm already thinking of my to-do list. And so I said to myself, and there's always so much negativity. By the way, guys, I don't watch the news. So it is so fascinating when people will come up to me and say, hey, do you see this on the news? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, you didn't hear about this? Like, I didn't even know about, obviously the Russia-Ukraine war until people were saying things to me, because that's how much I close off from it. And I don't do that because I don't care. I do that because the simple fact that there's so much negativity and the news pushes a lot of those types of things. And a lot of those things that they're pushing are out of my control. And so I can stress about things that are in my control. I can't, for me, I just have found for myself, I can't stress about things that are out of my control. It's not like I can go and do something over there right now that's going to have immediate impact, right? On something on that scale. Now, I know that's a big, broad scale, but I just steer away from the media. It's just a lot of negativity. Yeah. And so I stay away from it. So I started doing let's start the day with a positive word, right? So tomorrow's Terrific Tuesday. Wednesday's wonderful. Thursday's thankful. So I always, if you watch my tweets, I always ask our community, like, what are you thankful for today? I feel like a lot of times in life, we don't think about the things that we have today and being thankful for them. Like, I'm thankful I woke up today and I just took a breath. So many people can't say that, right? And so every day of the week, I have a positive word. So I start the day off that way. Then I'll meditate. And then I have a definitive purpose. And part of that book, Think and Grow Rich, talks about creating a definitive purpose. I won't read it all to you guys, but I do have something that I read after I meditate, my definitive purpose, and then I'll do my workout routine. And that's kind of how I kickstart my days. But that's what I do for self-help. And then obviously I love playing hockey, like I said earlier. So that people don't realize, like, that's self-help, right? It's getting me back into my competitive edge. It's also exercising. I get to see a bunch of people that I enjoy seeing. But there's nothing really specific to NFTs from a wellness perspective. If anything, it's doing the opposite with having to be on spaces. Like, probably right when we hop off of here, I'll probably jump on some spaces tonight. But as much as I should probably go to bed because I was up late last night with our space. But
yeah.
Anywho, see, look at that.
Yeah.
But it's the week. It's not the weekend. So the family gets most of the time on the weekend.
Yeah, that's good. Bite said, I don't think we've had that one. Nothing gold can stay is the only frost we've had. So you're good. You're good there.
All right. Well,
so you were just talking. You were just talking about family. You have a wife. You have a young kiddo. Do they?
Yep.
Do they get what you do whenever it comes to NFTs or Munchie Mafia? Are they supportive of it, or do they ever get really passionate alongside you about it?
So, my wife's always supportive of everything that I do. And I know it's not easy because I do a lot of different things. And with some of those things in businesses I've started in the past, there comes sacrifices. And one of the biggest sacrifices you can ask any entrepreneur, 9 times out of 10, is going to be the sacrifice of time with family.
Yeah.
So I appreciate her willingness to stand by me. She knows that I, have big plans and where I want to go and what I'd like to accomplish. And she has signed up for those. I know sometimes it's difficult. She's like, like, you're always doing all these different things, but she's super supportive. Now, when it comes to NFT, she has no idea. She just looks at it. She's like, it's nice. That's nice artwork. Like why? And then I have to explain it to her. And even still, when I explain it to her, because it's not her thing, she's like, oh, I get it now, but like, doesn't excite me.
Yeah.
Now my son, he was part of the process of picking some of the endangered species, so he loves it.
Oh, that's so
cool. Even the other day, I was showing him, I was like, look at all these people who minted these tigers. He's like, oh, Dad, I like that one. I like this one. I like that one. And actually, with our pot father that we sold out earlier this year, I had him go through and I was like, pick one that you want Dad to buy for you. And so he has one in his own MetaMask wallet. and it's a panda that, but also resembles Wolverine, and he loves Marvel and he loves all that type of stuff. So my son has an NFT, folks. He
That's
doesn't know what to
cool.
do with it, but he just likes the artwork,
Yep,
right?
that's okay.
But yeah, she's super supportive. And I know at times it's tough, right, because of the
Yeah.
sacrifice that she has to take. But
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
you ask me, my friends, I would say most of my close friends have somewhat idea of what crypto and NFTs are, but others it's just like
Yeah.
over their head. And for me, if they ask questions, I'll dive into it. But I'm not someone that's gonna say you got to do this or you got to get into it. This is what I'm up to. If you're interested, I'll share more. If not,
Yeah,
that's on
that's
you,
really cool.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
There are lots of resources online for mental health, mental wellness in general. Do you have any favorite resources that you rely on personally?
So, when it comes to mental health, um, I don't have any specific resources that I use. But what I will say is that a couple of years ago, and the other founder of this project, he went through extensive Tony Robbins training, and actually worked alongside Tony Robbins. And a lot of those techniques and things that he's learned, I have then embodied in myself and also use and train other people, not specifically around everything he does, but there's little bits and pieces that I've taken that have helped me. I don't have anything in specific, that resources that I can share with people in the space. But a lot of my mental health stuff is meditating. Like it's turned my world around. There's different breathing exercises. I don't know if anyone's heard of Wim Hof breathing exercise, but like that for me, it's like really helping me not be anxious, not have anxiety and things of that nature. But I know there's bigger things in mental health. And so one thing I will say is that even though I don't have any resources specifically, one thing is what you're doing is amazing, right? What Big Kev's doing is amazing. And I say that because people aren't talking about mental health enough. And it is everywhere, right? And the fact that you're shedding a light on this and bringing people like me on here, and I can talk about some of the things that I've experienced, and showing other people that people go through this, and there's different things that you can do to help yourself, and bringing that awareness is so important. And there needs to be more people like you doing this, because like one of those things, it's like, oh yeah, and they just dusted it on the rug. Oh, they'll be fine, right? And that's not right. We should be lifting up the rug and saying, we see all this dust. How can we help you?
Yeah.
Right. And so I applaud you for what you're
Thank
doing.
you. I appreciate that.
And you should pat yourself on the back, because a lot of times people don't pat themselves on the back. Thank you very much. You can ask my community. I tell them to do it all the time. Right. But you should be proud of yourself,
Yeah.
because this isn't an easy topic to talk about.
Yeah. I have a hard time saying I'm proud of myself, but I am very proud of the community that we have. And my camera just got really blurry for some reason. But I didn't change anything. Why did it do that? I have a hard time saying that I am proud of myself. That's like a general thing that I have an issue with. But I am definitely proud of the community and what they have accomplished.
There you go. Refocused.
I know.
Well, it's because you got one of those crazy sophisticated things, and you must have moved out of the focus. So it's like, oh, we're going to readjust
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
That was pretty crazy that you just put your hand up and then it refocused, like perfect. Like I could see the lens move.
Yeah. Yeah, I put my hand up there to just be like, okay, focus on something close that you realize you have to focus on something far away. But yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of what the community comes together all the time around people. Like you just like with your community, if somebody's having a bad day, we have lots of spaces that they can go into and talk about it. And I have people that I'm connected with on Twitter, and they'll talk to me about stuff. And I think that that's something that's really cool that I am proud of, is that the people that I have kind of gathered around the fire together are now supporting each other, even whenever I'm not able to. That is something that I am very proud of. And I think that's really cool. And you're right. We absolutely need to talk about, everybody has mental health. You might not be struggling with a mental illness right now. Everyone has mental health. Everyone has mental wellness. 1 in 5 people in any given year will deal with a mental illness. And if you expand that to over a lifetime, it's 1 in 2. So if it's not you, it's someone that you are close with. And so mental illness affects 100% of people, unless you are a hermit and you don't ever talk to anyone ever. It affects 100% of people, and we should talk about it. Absolutely. Yeah.
We absolutely should. I mean, I just shared with you guys today on the space that I was going through 3 weeks of kind of depressed state where I was sleeping to the point my wife's like, get out of bed. Like, what are you doing? Like, get out of bed, go outside. Like, let's go hang out by the pool. Right. And I didn't want to do anything but sleep, guys.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do that. Right. So even me as a motivational person and a positive mindset, I too have had that place. Right. And what's helped me is working out, getting back in my routine, get back meditating, working out. Because what I was doing is not doing all the things that kept me on the path forward. Right. And yeah, I was battling all those changes. And I feel like that's part of that process. But just, making sure you have someone to nudge you and be like, all right, I understand you're going through it. It's not easy. But let's get you back into the rhythm. Let's get you back into the motions. Wife's like, go work out, go meditate. You know what I mean? Let's do this. Let's do that. And so I thank her and I appreciate her more than anything. Right. And so for all of you guys listening to this, it's important, right? Join a community, right, that you're creating so that if people are feeling that way, you have this community that's going to uplift you and support you and help you get out of that times because we all experience it. I mean, you just gave the numbers. Everyone experiences it at some way, at some point in time, in some way, shape, or form. You're going to experience it. Sometimes maybe it's after a traumatic thing had happened, right? Or a loss of the loved one, or a number of different things. So, again, I appreciate you having me on here. I mean, this
absolutely.
has been fun.
This has been really good. So you kind of, I think I kind of know the answer to this because I feel like you would have just stuck on the easy path, right? But if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing instead?
Well, I never go on the easy path, right? So I left software sales to go join my business partner to go run our company up north in cannabis, and just obviously step down from that. And I've known him for 27 years. I grew up playing hockey with his younger brother. So, and let me tell you, I learned so much because as an enterprise sales rep, my responsibility was me, myself, and I, and just making sure I hit my number, right? And then having to now learn how to manage people. And I had managed some younger sales reps underneath me, but I learned so much in the last, year and 9 months I was up there, just from managing people and how different people operate and how to get them motivated and how to do these different things. So it wasn't easy. And there was a lot of things that I learned along the way. I don't think I would do anything differently. I think I'd just continue to do what I'm doing now. Like, I like challenges, right?
Yeah.
For me, I work best when my back's against the wall, and it's some people don't like that. I thrive in that. I'm also a person that I've had bosses or other people in my life. Actually, it's a good story for you. My great aunt, she used to tell me when I was younger, "You dream too big. You dream too big," right? And I'm going to give you guys some context. Small town, grew up in a small town in Massachusetts, right? Never thought bigger than I'm just going to go get my job, my 9 to 5. I'm going to punch in, I'm going to punch out, I'm going to get my check, I'm going to go home, right? And that's just never been me. And so I'd always dream big. And I would use that as a fuel to my fire. So, like, that's me. There's some people that would use that and listen to it and say, well, yeah, maybe I'm not supposed to be dreaming this big. Maybe I should just keep my dreams like down here, right? And that's unfortunate. But again, everyone's built differently. Everyone's going to react differently to certain things. And I took that fuel of fire, and it was crazy to sit down with her a couple of months ago when my cousin was up from Florida. She's like, how are things going? I'm like, yeah, well, your great nephew, he's running a $6.3 million company right now. And she was like, what? She goes, well, I don't know where to come to get a loan. I'm like, nah, auntie, I don't give out loans, but maybe I'll take you out to dinner. But and I say that last part jokingly, but I'd obviously support my great aunt in any way, shape, or form. But that was a thing that many people would react to it differently. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, no, I'm gonna dream as big as I want to. So to go back to your point, like, I'm always looking to challenge myself. I want to do more in life. And I'm always going to be pushing for what's the next thing that I'm going to build. And, it's crazy, but it's also true. My wife, literally, because my mom goes, well, when do you think he's going to settle down? Like my mom says to my wife, and she goes, come on, Linda, he's never settling down. Once he does this, he's going to sell that business, and he's going to go do this, and he's going to do the next thing. And that's just who I am. I mean, the day I die is the day I'm going to stop learning, and the day I'm going to stop building something, some way, shape, or form. So that's just who I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't change anything.
That's a good way to be.
I wouldn't change
honestly.
Well, I appreciate it. But it gets exhausting. There you go.
Yeah.
It's exhausting
Absolutely.
Sometimes.
Can be.
Without a doubt.
All right, well, we're going to have a magic moment here, you and I. And if you haven't seen
moment.
Yes, if you haven't seen any of the streams, this is a very special thing. And
Okay.
folks, if you're in the chat and you have any more questions, feel free to put them in. The queue is still open. And as you saw earlier, I'll put them on the screen and everything. So if you have any more questions, feel free to pop them into the chat for Lester while I get my magic stuff ready here. So this is a magic wand. Oop, it's blurry.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh,
I have a very special magic wand, and when I wave this, you get to eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental health, disabilities, or talking about mental health. And you just tell me what it is, and I'm going to wave this, and then you have the power. So here you go. Here's the power.
Can it be a theory or a statement?
Whatever you want. You got the power now.
And it's going to be very simple, guys. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I have someone very close to me that says it doesn't exist. But that individual says it doesn't exist, and I've witnessed them go through it and help them get through it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can deny it all you want.
Well, that's exactly it. And that person at a time, right? There was some tough times, and remember them sitting in the fetal position in the kitchen. Like how are we going to get through this? Right?
Yeah.
And I laugh about it because I laugh about it because of the ignorance part of it. Right? It's like you say this doesn't exist, and they just got to be weak-minded. They're not strong. And I'm like, well, I just saw you do that a couple of years ago. But you, to your point, right? They denied it.
Mm-hmm.
They denied that they actually were experiencing it. So I couldn't agree with you more in your earlier statement that we all experience it at some point. But that's what I would do.
Yeah,
that's the one common thing that I would remove.
I would love to eliminate people thinking, or people even not thinking it, but people saying that it's not real. That really bugs me because it's completely false. But yeah, that's a great thing to eliminate for sure. Well, I'm just going to open it up to you. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about? Any projects you're working on? Personal things you want to throw out? I will post your socials one more time in the chat for people who maybe weren't here at the beginning.
You're going to post my social security number? Is that what you said? My social security number? How'd you get that? I'm teasing with you. I knew I'd get you with that one.
543. No.
Well, wait a second. You might know it. Mine does start with a 5-3.
No, it does not. No. Come on. I just made that
up. Yes, it does. My social does start with a 5-3.
That's amazing.
That's so crazy. But your third number is far off.
Yeah, that's all right.
I think the other thing I would share is that if any of the community people that are a part of your community that wanted to join us on Twitter, make sure that they follow us on their socials and see what we're all about. Again, we're here to help people, and I don't care if you ever own one of our NFTs, but also at the same time, if you do want to become a holder, all you have to do is just ask questions, join our Discord. I'm not even going to tell you how to find anything except for looking at our socials, because I look at tonight's space was not about us and our project and what we got going on, more about the mental health and the state of it within NFTs, and how our community is helping some of our community members get through those tough times. So. Again, I appreciate your time. I have nothing else to add at this point, and I've had a great time. So hopefully your audience was able to learn some things and maybe get some nuggets of information on things to consider for themselves.
Yeah, Bitemark says thanks so much for being here. Very educational. And I'll say personally, I learned a lot, and I added, I think, 3 books to my book to read list, a show to my to watch list. So yeah, this was great. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for being here and just taking the time out of your night. I really appreciate it.
No worries. You know what? I got to make it 4 books.
Okay,
I got to make it 4 books.
Give it to me.
Okay, because I think it would be really good. It's The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown.
Okay. Yep.
That is an amazing book. And yeah, I'll just leave it at it's an amazing book. I mean,
Yeah.
I can give you the high overview, but I won't ruin it for people because I think it goes hand in hand to some of the things that we were talking today about mental health. And so hopefully some people go and pick that up. That book, I read it this year.
That's
Eye opening,
awesome. Good.
eye opening. But
Yeah,
anyways, we can leave it at
she
that.
is wonderful too. Like the books that she writes are really cool.
Oh, she is amazing. I've never heard of her till I was just like scrolling through Audible, just like looking for some different books. I'm like, what's this power? You know, I was like, what is this? So I was like, I got it, and then I went backwards to figure out like how did she get to where she was, and it all started with a TED talk,
Yep.
right? And then it just blew. But yeah, it's a really good book. So if
Yeah.
you haven't read that one, I would put that one higher on your list. Just given kind of the type of work that you do, I think it could be beneficial and helpful in what you're up to and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Chat, give me just a second. I'm going to disconnect with Lester offline, and I'll be right back. Our journey today through the world of NFTs and their impact on mental health was nothing short of enlightening for me. Lester brought a fresh perspective that shows just how relevant and important this digital revolution is. Remember, mental health is a topic that affects us all, and the more we can talk openly and honestly about it, the better off we can all be. Let's continue breaking down those barriers, dispelling those misconceptions, and fostering a community of understanding and support. If you enjoyed this episode and found it as valuable as I did, please consider sharing it with your friends and leaving a review. Your support really does mean the world to me and provides me personally with a lot of encouragement to keep going. As always, you can reach out via the website, talkousfallapart.org. You can find me on social media channels, just search for MommaFoxFire, or you can even reach out with my email address, which is mommafoxfire@gmail.com. I love hearing from you and am open to topic suggestions, comments, or even just a friendly hello. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Stay curious, stay kind, and remember that even when things seem to fall apart, they can be rebuilt into something even more beautiful, like nachos. Take care.